Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is drinking a Fanta. Maybe it's you. Orange, grape, strawberry, doesn't matter. It's bright, fizzy, fruity. A fun drink. But here's what Coca-Cola doesn't advertise. Fanta was invented in Nazi Germany, not after the war, during it. 1940, Berlin. The Coca-Cola factory is still running, but there's a problem. They can't get Coca-Cola syrup. Allied embargoes have cut off supply. No syrup means no Coke. No Coke means the factory closes. Thousands of workers lose jobs. The factory manager, a man named Max Keith, has a choice. Shut down or invent something new. Keith looks around his factory. He has carbonated water. He has bottles. He has workers who need paychecks. What he doesn't have is anything resembling soda ingredients. So he improvises. He takes whatever food waste he can find. Apple pulp, whey, the watery stuff left over from cheese making, whatever scraps are available in a rationed wartime economy, and creates a drink. It tastes terrible, absolutely terrible. But it's wet, it's fizzy, and technically, it's a beverage. He names it Fanta, from the German word fantasy, meaning imagination. Because that's what it took. Imagination to create a soda from garbage during a war. Fanta becomes one of the most popular drinks in Nazi Germany. Soldiers drink it. Hitler Youth drink it. By 1943, Germany is consuming 3 million cases a year. And then, after the war, Coca-Cola takes Fanta, reformulates it, and sells it worldwide as a fun, fruity soft drink, without mentioning where it came from. This is the story they don't tell you. The story of how a desperate German businessman invented a drink from food waste to keep a factory running during World War II, and how that drink became a global brand worth billions. This is why Nazi Germany invented Fanta. And no, it wasn't for the taste. To understand how Fanta happened, you need to understand how Coca-Cola came to Nazi Germany in the first place. 1929, Coca-Cola is already a massive American brand, but it's only sold in North America. The company wants to expand globally. Europe is the obvious target. Germany, Weimar Germany, before the Nazis, is particularly attractive. It's industrialized, urbanized, and has a growing middle class with money to spend on American luxuries. Coca-Cola sends a businessman named Ray Rivington Powers to set up operations. He opens a bottling plant in Essen in 1929. The timing is terrible. Within months, the Great Depression hits. The German economy collapses. Coca-Cola Deutschland struggles. But then, something unexpected happens. The Nazis come to power in 1933, and the German economy starts recovering. Enter Max Keith. Keith is a German businessman, efficient, relentless, politically savvy. Coca-Cola hires him to run their German operations in 1933. Keith is not a Nazi. Let's be clear about that. He never joins the party. But he's also not stupid. He knows that to succeed in Nazi Germany, you need to play the game. So Keith does something clever. He markets Coca-Cola as compatible with Nazi ideology. How? He sponsors Hitler Youth events. Coca-Cola trucks show up at rallies. The company runs ads showing healthy, Aryan-looking Germans enjoying Coke at sporting events and festivals. Keith's pitch to the Nazi government. Coca-Cola supports German workers, provides jobs, and promotes German health and vitality. It works. By 1939, Coca-Cola Deutschland has 43 bottling plants across Germany and is selling millions of bottles per year. Coca-Cola is everywhere in Nazi Germany. It's at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. It's sold at Hitler Youth camps. There are stories, difficult to verify but repeated, that even Hitler himself occasionally drank Coke. Keith has built Coca-Cola Deutschland into a massive operation. Thousands of workers, huge infrastructure, serious money. And then, in September 1939, Germany invades Poland. World War II begins. And Max Keith's carefully built empire is about to collapse. When World War II starts, Coca-Cola Deutschland faces an immediate problem. They're a German subsidiary of an American company. And America and Germany are about to become enemies. At first, this isn't a crisis. America isn't in the war yet. Coca-Cola syrup, the secret formula that makes Coke taste like Coke, still flows from Atlanta to Germany. But as the war escalates, Allied forces start imposing trade embargoes. By 1940, it's becoming difficult to ship anything to Germany. By 1941, it's nearly impossible. And then, December 1941, Pearl Harbor. America enters the war. Overnight, Coca-Cola Deutschland is an enemy of its parent company. The syrup shipments stop completely. No more Coca-Cola concentrate. No more secret formula. Keith is sitting in Berlin with 43 bottling plants, thousands of employees, massive infrastructure, and nothing to bottle. The Nazi government makes it clear, either the factories keep running and provide employment, or they'll be seized and repurposed for war production. Keith can't make Coca-Cola without the syrup. He can't import syrup because of the embargo. He can't shut down because the government won't let him. He needs to invent a new drink. Fast. The problem, this is 1941 Germany. The economy is fully mobilized for war. Everything is rationed. Sugar, the main ingredient in soda, is tightly controlled. It's almost impossible to get. Fruits? Rationed or unavailable. Artificial flavoring? Can't import it. Keith can't make a normal soda even if he wanted to. He doesn't have access to normal ingredients. So Keith does something desperate. He asks his chemists to create a drink from whatever food waste is available. Seriously. Food waste. Keith gathers his team. Factory workers, chemists, anyone with ideas. The brief is simple. Create a beverage we can carbonate and bottle, using only materials we can access under wartime rationing. They start experimenting. What they have access to? Apple pomace, the pulp left over after pressing apples for cider, normally thrown away or used as animal feed. Whey, the watery byproduct of cheese making. Watery, slightly sweet, mostly useless. Elderberry, one of the few fruits still available. Beet sugar, limited quantities, heavily rationed. Whatever else they could scavenge. This is not a recipe for a delicious beverage. This is a recipe for desperation. The first batches taste awful. Descriptions from people who drank original Fanta include weird, medicinal, and not remotely like fruit. But Keith isn't trying to make something delicious. He's trying to make something drinkable enough that people will buy it, so his factories can keep running. After weeks of experimentation, they settle on a formula, mostly apple pomace and whey, with whatever flavoring they can manage, carbonated and bottled. Keith needs a name, something optimistic, something that doesn't sound like, "We made this from garbage." One of his salesmen, Joe Nip, suggests fantasy, imagination. Everyone's been using their imagination to survive the war. Why not use imagination to create a soft drink? They shorten it to Fanta. 1940, Fanta goes on sale in Germany. The marketing. Keith can't say, "This is like Coca-Cola." It's nothing like Coca-Cola. It doesn't taste like Coke. It doesn't look like Coke. So he markets it as a uniquely German drink. Fanta, the drink of the Reich. Not literally, but the implication is there. This is Germany's soda, made with German ingenuity from German resources. Ads show happy Germans, soldiers, workers, families, drinking Fanta. It's positioned as a patriotic alternative to the American Coca-Cola that's no longer available. Does it work? Shockingly, yes. People are desperate for anything resembling normal life. Rationing means most Germans haven't had a treat in months. Fanta is fizzy, slightly sweet, and vaguely fruity. It's not good, but it's something. Soldiers buy it. Civilians buy it. Even some Nazi officials drink it. Keith's factories stay open. Workers keep their jobs. And Fanta starts spreading across Nazi-occupied Europe. But here's where the story gets complicated. What is Keith actually doing? 1930. The gray zone. Collaboration or survival. Max Keith is running Coca-Cola factories in Nazi Germany during World War II. He's keeping thousands employed. He's producing a beverage that German soldiers drink. Is he a collaborator? Or is he just a businessman trying to survive? The case for collaboration. Keith kept Coca-Cola, and later Fanta, deeply embedded in Nazi society. The company sponsored Nazi events. Fanta trucks showed up at Hitler Youth rallies. Keith maintained relationships with Nazi officials to keep his factories running. During the war, Keith's factories produced Fanta for the German military. Wehrmacht soldiers drank Fanta. This isn't speculation. There are photographs and records. Keith personally profited. He wasn't forced to run Coca-Cola Deutschland. He chose to stay, chose to adapt, chose to keep operating under a genocidal regime. The case for survival. Keith was running a business that employed thousands of Germans, most of them ordinary workers, not Nazis. If he shut down, they'd lose their jobs or be conscripted for war production. Keith never joined the Nazi Party. He maintained his independence as much as possible. He wasn't ideologically committed to Nazism. He was committed to keeping his business alive. Making Fanta from food waste was creative survival in impossible circumstances. He was trying to keep people employed during a war, not actively supporting Nazi war aims. The truth is, probably somewhere in between. Keith wasn't a resistance hero. He wasn't hiding Jews or sabotaging the Nazi war effort. But he also wasn't a true believer. He was an opportunist, a businessman who saw a way to survive and profit in terrible circumstances. Thousands of people made similar calculations in Nazi Germany. Keep your head down, keep working, try to survive until the war ends. The question is, does survival justify collaboration? One thing we know for certain, Keith was very careful after the war to frame his story as "I saved Coca-Cola Deutschland from Nazi seizure," rather than "I ran a profitable business under the Nazi regime." And for the most part, Coca-Cola accepted that narrative. May 1945, Germany surrenders. The war is over. American forces occupy Germany. Coca-Cola executives from Atlanta arrive to assess what happened to their German operations during the war. What they find surprises them. Max Keith is still there. The factories are still standing, mostly. Keith kept them running through the entire war, producing Fanta instead of Coke. And here's the kicker. Keith has kept meticulous records. Every pfennig of profit, every bottle produced, every transaction, all documented. Keith presents Coca-Cola Atlanta with a full accounting. Here's what I did. Here's the money I made. Here's what happened during the war. Then he does something unexpected. He hands over all the profits from Fanta sales during the war to Coca-Cola headquarters. Every single pfennig. Millions of Reichsmarks, though heavily devalued by war's end. Keith doesn't keep it. He says, "This money belongs to the Coca-Cola company. I was just managing operations during a difficult time." Coca-Cola executives are stunned. They expected to find Keith had either fled, stolen everything, or collaborated so deeply he'd be prosecuted. Instead, they find a loyal employee who kept the business running and returned all profits. Coca-Cola makes a decision. Keith stays. He's promoted. He becomes head of Coca-Cola operations for all of post-war Europe. But what about Fanta? Initially, Coca-Cola discontinues Fanta. It was a wartime necessity, not a real product. Plus, the formula was terrible. Nobody wants to keep making soda from apple waste and whey. Fanta disappears for a decade. 1955, Coca-Cola notices something interesting in Italy. Italian bottlers have been experimenting with orange-flavored sodas. They're incredibly popular. An executive remembers, "We have a trademark for a fruit-flavored drink. What was it called? Fanta." Coca-Cola revives the Fanta brand, but this time they completely reformulate it. New recipe, new flavor, new marketing. The only thing it shares with Nazi-era Fanta is the name. 1960, Fanta Orange officially launches in the United States. It's bright orange, sweet, tastes like actual oranges, sort of, and has zero connection to its origins, except the name. The marketing. Fun, fruity, youthful. Zero mention of Nazi Germany, food waste, or wartime desperation. Fanta becomes a global hit. Today, it's sold in over 180 countries. It's the second largest fruit-flavored soft drink brand in the world, and almost nobody knows where it came from. For decades, Coca-Cola simply didn't mention Fanta's origins. The official story: Fanta was developed in 1940 in Germany as a fruit-flavored drink due to ingredient shortages during World War II. Technically true. Also, massively sanitized. What Coca-Cola doesn't emphasize, that Fanta was invented specifically because Nazi Germany was under embargo, that it was made from food waste, that Wehrmacht soldiers drank it, that it was marketed as a German alternative to American Coke, that Max Keith ran operations under the Nazi regime for years. Why the silence? Reason number 1, brand image. Coca-Cola has spent over a century building an image of American optimism, happiness, and universal appeal. Nazi Germany origin story doesn't fit that image. Imagine the commercial. Fanta, invented in 1940. Germany from apple waste, now with real fruit flavor. Not exactly compelling marketing. Reason number 2, Max Keith's legacy. Keith remained a high-ranking Coca-Cola executive until his death in 1966. He was celebrated within the company as the man who saved Coca-Cola Deutschland. Questioning Keith's actions during the Nazi era would mean questioning a company hero. Reason number 3, legal and financial implications. If Coca-Cola acknowledged deep collaboration with the Nazi regime, it could open the company to lawsuits, reparations claims, and reputational damage worth billions. Better to keep the story vague and focus on survival rather than profit. The story started coming out in the early 2000s. Historians researching corporate behavior during Nazi Germany uncovered the full story. Books were written. Documentaries were made. Coca-Cola was forced to acknowledge more of the truth. In 2015, on Fanta's 75th anniversary, Coca-Cola Germany ran an ad campaign celebrating Fanta's origins, the good old times. The ads showed a sunny, nostalgic view of 1940s Germany, with zero mention of Nazis, war, or genocide. The backlash was immediate. The good old times? In Nazi Germany? Are you serious? Coca-Cola pulled the campaign within 24 hours and apologized. Today, Coca-Cola's official stance. Fanta was created in Germany in 1940 due to trade embargoes during World War II. The formula was later completely reformulated. True. Also, incomplete. Every time you drink a Fanta, you're drinking a ghost of a desperate wartime compromise made by a German businessman trying to keep a factory running during the Nazi regime. That's not to say you shouldn't drink Fanta. Modern Fanta has nothing to do with Nazi Germany except a name. The formula is completely different. The company is different. The world is different. But the story of Fanta teaches us something important about how corporations operate during war and how history gets sanitized for branding. Lesson number 1, corporations adapt to survive. Max Keith didn't shut down Coca-Cola Deutschland out of principle. He adapted, improvised, and profited. Coca-Cola didn't punish him for working under the Nazis. They promoted him. This is how corporations work. Survival and profit come first. Morality is negotiable. Lesson number 2. History is rewritten by marketing. Fanta's origin story was deliberately obscured because it didn't fit the brand image. Companies control their narratives, and inconvenient truths get buried. Lesson number 3. Gray zones are uncomfortable. Max, Keith wasn't a hero. He wasn't a villain. He was a businessman who made compromises to survive in an evil system. Most of human history is full of people like Keith. Not monsters, not saints, just people trying to survive. We want simple stories, good guys and bad guys. Reality is messier. Final thought. The next time you see a Fanta ad, bright, fun, colorful, remember that behind every brand is a history. And sometimes that history is stranger and darker than you'd ever imagine. Fanta was invented in Nazi Germany, not because someone wanted a fruity drink, but because a businessman needed to keep a factory running during a war. That's the real story. That's the story Coca-Cola doesn't advertise. But now you know, and you'll never look at Fanta the same way again.